Hi, John. Hi. I've seen you. Well, they were fighting over you, the girls, but you've pulled a lot of women apart. And
well, you're confusing me with Mr. Sparks. I'm the one the damaged Catholics go to. But I really hope that they can resolve this before both of them go to live the rest of their lives on Michelle Bachmann Island, because you know how this ends.
Right.
They're all going to go live on Michelle Bachmann Island together.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
First of all, I thought of my friend Stephen Stills first. I thought of you second. I know how many times you had David Crosby on, and he just could not have. I didn't know him as well as you did, but he just could not have been nicer, and obviously just a musical giant. But I was just curious your thoughts, because I know you spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah, I loved him. The first time I ever saw David perform, I was a kid working as a seat filler at the Grammys, and he sang backup for Phil Collins on Another Day in Paradise, because his harmonies were so great, and he lent his voice to so many other people's records. He did my show, I don't know how many hundreds of times. I mean, during the pandemic, he was coming on every week in the first few months of it. I have so many stories about David. I love David. David came on stage with us. We did a show right after Trump was elected. We did a show at Caroline's, and it was I got Rosie O'Donnell to come, and Judah and Judy Gold, and Kraz was doing Fallon. When he got off the Tonight Show, he walked across Times Square, came to Caroline's, sat in the front row. The whole crowd couldn't believe he was there. I got him on stage, and he sat there for 25 minutes on stage with me, and we just talked. And he was a great raconteur. I begged him to do a spoken word tour. At one point, he just said he can declare for a fact that Donald Trump has never made a woman experience real pleasure in her entire life, and the crowd went crazy. And later that night, he stole my wife's vape pen, and that's David. Was just
that's on brand.
Yeah, listen, here's the thing. There's a great movie made. A.J. Eaton did a film that Cameron Crowe produced called Remember My Name. It came out 3 years ago. We did a town hall in front of an audience with David and Cameron Crowe. We're going to air that again tonight because the film is a great tribute to him. And we played nothing but his music last night with the Byrds and, of course, with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And I also want to point out, although obituaries say he's in the Hall of Fame twice, but as I said to Stephen on our show, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young is a totally different band and deserves to be in the Hall of Fame again. David almost did the Sexy Liberal show twice, but then he had some heart problems. You might remember that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And just, so much great music, and he's released 5 great albums in the last 8 years, and I think people should listen to his newer stuff because that's what he was so proud of. I don't know. I'm in LA next week, and I was going to go up to Santa Barbara and visit him and his wife Jan.
Yeah.
And it's amazing he made it to 81.
Yeah.
The abuse he put himself through. And he did it because of love and creativity. That's how he lived so long.
Yeah. I just have little memory, but oh my God, you've, I'm sure, been to the Greek many times here in LA, but it's just such a gorgeous outdoor theater. And so I got to watch Crosby, Stills, and Nash from backstage because of Stephen. But I just was saying, there's some things that you never get out of your head, and David's hair flying back, like watching him play from that close. And then also just finding out how nice he was and down to earth in person. I mean, that's the only time I think I ever met him, in person, but just amazing.
And he was fearless. He was fearless. I saw him at Town Hall once, and he came out at the first act just like wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And then after intermission, he came out on stage wearing a suit and tie. Like you could never tell where he was going to go. And, just the creativity and, I'm shocked at how sad it makes me because he was 81. He lived a lot longer than anyone ever thought he would live. And but it really gets to me because after a while they become a friend, and he's someone who is just such an original thinker. And I'm grateful we got to be alive when he was making music.
You were profound on Twitter just about in general. You said when we're old and dying and our lives are flashing before our eyes, it's going to be a drag to watch the parts where everybody screamed about the debt ceiling. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the GOP, right? That's the party of dine and dash.
Yeah.
The party that says government doesn't work won't stop trying to prove it. And in their midterm campaigns, what were they talking about? Fighting inflation, right?
Right.
Immigration, crime, wokeness, energy independence, whatever nonsense they were saying. They never talked about the deficit. They never talked about balancing a budget. They never talked about cutting Social Security or Medicare. Don't trust any politician who says things like entitlements, okay?
Yes.
They call them entitlements so they don't have to call them earned benefits. Or my favorite thing they're saying now, reforms to mandatory spending programs. All you got to remember, friends, is this number. You ready? 1873. 1873. 18, the number of times they raised the debt limit under Reagan. 7, the number of times they raised it under Bush. And 3, the number of times they raised the debt limit under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They are liars. And again, the Wall Street donors who own them aren't amused by this.
Yeah.
This is not going to end well for Kevin McCarthy. And it's possible the Nazi clot caucus is doing this just to move him out of the speaker's seat even earlier.
Ooh, you tweeted back at Jim Jordan tweeted, student loan quote unquote forgiveness will benefit wealthy elites. Once again, Joe Biden forgets about real America. And you said real America chose the Democratic candidate for president 7 of the last 8 elections. Also, wealthy elites don't have student loan debt, you godless knob. I just like when you call people godless knobs.
Well, there's godless knobs, and then there's Jim Jordan. And, I should have been like Jim and just look the other way, but instead I chose to intervene.
Okay. You also tweeted, science never made me doubt the existence of God, but wealthy televangelists do. I love when you, my personal comedy, Jesus, bitch slaps someone with the Bible on Twitter, as he does.
Yes.
Dave tweeted, if caring for the poor is following Jesus, doesn't it make sense that the government we elect should also care for the poor on our behalf collectively? You said, why, it's almost like you're talking about a government based on actual Christian values.
Well, that's what makes me stabby. Yeah, here's the deal. I've had it with these people. Yeah, well, Jesus said help the poor, but never said the government should pick my pocket. Never said the government should hold the gun to my head and force me to blah, 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 blah. No, you revolting fake Christian Satan. Here's the deal. In Matthew 25, Jesus says, individuals and nations, very important, individuals and nations will be judged by how they take care of the poor, take care of the sick, are kind to those in prison, and welcome the stranger. That's 4 things the Republican Party can't stand.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the guy who says to pay your taxes. That's render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Yeah. So again, it's like, I'd love to have a government based on Christian values, but these guys would call it socialism.
Yeah. And also, just, that you keep calling out racism on Twitter. You just said, I don't know if Ron DeSantis is racist, but he sure wants the racist to think he's racist. Also, he's a godless, soulless racist.
Yes, and he is. And we're finally beginning to talk about what a godless, racist Ron DeSantis is, because his fake Christianity is inseparable from his racism. From the wall, from his mean, cruel stunt, lying to migrants to get them on a plane so he can use COVID funds to dump them on the Republican governor of Massachusetts, lies and a stunt, and they weren't even from his state. But here's the deal. Florida, and I love Florida. I have 2 parents buried there. Yeah. Florida has 3 days on their calendar that are state holidays to celebrate slavery. They have Confederate Memorial Day, that's a state holiday, Robert E. Lee's birthday, and Jefferson Davis's birthday. Right now in this century, 3 different state holidays to celebrate white supremacist rape, murder, enslavement, but no state holiday for Juneteenth.
Yeah.
3 days to celebrate slavery, no days to celebrate the end of slavery, and Ron's out here smugly saying that systemic racism is a myth. It's like he keeps proving why it's real. The very people who are trying to ban what they call critical race theory are proving critical race theory right. They're trying to keep children from learning the truth because they don't want the children of racists to know about what their grandparents did.
Yeah. Speaking of, I love this in terms of racism. Jack Posobiec, he's the right wing, whatever, just said Derek Chauvin did not murder George Floyd. And you just said that moment when your racism is stronger than your own eyes. I mean, yeah.
But again, that's how you spot a racist in America right now. They're not wearing hoods and burning crosses. Those are bigots. I'm talking to racists, and they're the people who are more upset about Colin Kaepernick's knee than Derek Chauvin's. Yeah. And they're out there defending him. They're out there trying to put the victim on trial. And, it's like, I've had it, Steph. I've had it with these people. Trump is done.
It's always the hypocrisy, right? The George Santos is a drag queen story this week. We don't care if you're a drag queen. We're not the people trying to ban drag performers or drag shows. So you're the only ones that would think it's bad, but or a scandal.
Look at all the violence. Look at all the violence they've exposed drag performers to by all of this rhetoric. Because, look, George Harrison said, as long as you hate, There will be someone to hate. And they know they can't hate on gay people anymore in polite society, so they'll go after transgender children, transgender soldiers, and drag queens. They'll try to find any scapegoats they can get away with, right? Yeah. It's harder with Muslims these days. Oh, but illegal immigrants, we can go after them. So they go after these drag queens for months and months and months and lie and smear. And now suddenly, yeah, one of their own in their midst, but it just kind of proves they don't actually care about drag queens. They don't care about anything. They don't care about abortion. They don't care about illegal immigration. They don't care about inflation or the deficit. They care about their own power and rewarding their donors. That's the point we have to hammer home to our Republican loved ones and coworkers and friends. They don't mean anything they say.
Yeah. We've had some off-air conversations about our parents because you went through, I was with you when you went through just a really just horrible, painful period as people do that have older parents. My mom's turning 100 Sunday. I'm flying back just for her birthday. In and out, same day, 3,000 miles. But she's 100 with Alzheimer's. And, anyway, you were my role model. I have to tell you that. You were really my personal comedy Jesus, how you dealt with and loved your parents right to the end.
Thank you for that. Look, my mom was a geriatric nurse. And so growing up, whenever somebody in the family was dying, they came to live with us. Yeah. So I was around a lot of home hospice, and I got very comfortable with it, and I was there in the room for a lot of deaths. And I made 50 trips to Asheville in 4 years. Yeah. I was going down every 3 to 4 weeks, and I so admire what you're doing. You know, anyone who's had a parent who's dying knows it doesn't matter what toll it takes on you. Love is a thing you do, not a thing you feel. And I see these photos you post of you and your mom, and I'm telling you, Steph, you will never, ever regret all the time and money and effort you expended to get over there and spend as much time with her as you can. Guys, if you have older relatives in your life, please try to see them now that COVID's safer and give them love. You'll never be sorry for it. Please.
And for many of us, too, with, my mom is not ill, so it is not, she's 100 and has Alzheimer's, and so it's like the David Crosbys, Lisa Marie Presley. You just never know. You do not ever know when or where or what age, and so it's anyway, you were my parental role model. I just loved your tweet because I didn't know this. You said my grandfather Leonard was a house painter from Brooklyn who had the distinction of painting the homes of both General Douglas MacArthur and Captain Kangaroo. That impressed me tremendously as a child, but it impresses me even more today. That is a fascinating Fugelsangian fun fact, I must say.
My grandfather was an old, he was a racist. My parents tried to explain it to me growing up. I loved him. I was holding his hand when he died. I knew he was a racist. And on his deathbed in the hospital, he agreed to have the last rites given to him by a Filipino priest. And I cannot tell you the joy I saw at age 14 in my father's face that my grandfather allowed a non-white priest to give him the last rites. Yeah. Like, my parents thought that was the greatest progress they'd ever seen. And this was in the 80s. And so I learned a lot from him. And Captain Kangaroo was trending, and I remembered that tidbit because I think one thing you and I share is a love of history and absurdity. And painting both Captain Kangaroo and General MacArthur's house is pretty hip.
All right. Love you, John Fugelsang. I'm wearing my Sexy Liberal Save Democracy Tour t-shirt because we saved democracy.
And
Hal Sparks is coming up next hour, and you can still watch the Sexy Liberal virtual tour, sexyliberal.com, or commemorate your saving democracy with us, if you'd like. It's
a great show. It's really, really a funny political show. I want to tell everybody tonight on my show, it's going to be an encore on SiriusXM Progress of our town hall with David Crosby and Cameron Crowe about the documentary on his life. Tomorrow night, if you're in the Hudson Valley, where I've hung out with you before, Steph, I'm performing at the Phillipstown Depot Theater in Garrison, New York. I'm going to do an hour, 20-minute set with no opening act, a lot of new stuff, working out the routine for 2023.
Yay.
So you can go to my website or my Twitter to get all the information on that. Thank you guys so much.
Yay. That's what you'll hear. That's what you'll hear when John Fugelsang finishes a bit.
And we're going to see you in studio next week.
Yes. I'll be there next week in L.A.
You get to meet Bonnie and Clyde.